The first of our Sunday matchup sees the Sydney Roosters hosting the New Zealand Warriors at Central Coast Stadium. 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Both sides line up in the same 1-17 as they did last week.
Well, Roosters fans might be saying that unfortunate that they lost last week, but and I'll probably agree with them. I thought it was probably the incorrect decision for a person who has played rugby most of their life. You look at it and go, yeah, okay, benefit of the doubt to the attacking side, but unfortunately, this is what happens.
Yeah, I think by the letter of the law, the referees have come out and said, look, it wasn't a try. They've backed themselves in there and they've come out with their reasoning. Unfortunately, not everything is always black and white, so I guess it comes down to it. And I reckon there's probably 3 sides, maybe 4, that are kicking referees after the weekend. After we've wrapped the bunker all year, all of a sudden they're laying the boot in after 1 round. So don't shoot them yet, guys.
Funnily enough, they're all the losing sides too.
Yeah, you don't hear too many complaints from winners.
Exactly. Warriors, great to watch them in the second half, finally firing. Sean Johnson was back at his best, stepping all over the place.
That step, it's good to see that ankle's back to its best and he's killing it. It's great for rugby league.
I think RTS can certainly inject a little bit more. He certainly did a bit more on the weekend, but I think there's still more room for him.
Yeah, I definitely think he can step up a little bit, but statistically he's still performing on similar levels. The line breaks aren't quite where they are, but the run meters and those sorts of things, so it's scary to think the numbers he can rack up if he does kick up that extra gear, because we know he's got it from last year, so certainly can go there. Isaac Luke was good to see getting back in there, just taking those little snipes from dummy half. Definitely see that he grew up on a culture of a bit of rugby union, playing halfback obviously in rugby union, the way he snipes about there. And also trying to pick a couple of scraps as well was nice to see.
Yeah, he's good. And Conrad Hurrell, how good was he when he came on? Inject himself, went first hit up, straight up, 10 metres through the middle, just great to watch, and then inject himself once Carter went off onto the side.
Yeah, that's it. There's still some minor question marks over Carter's fitness, so we may yet see Connie come into the starting lineup, but I like him off the bench. Certainly offers some versatility, because pretty much he's big enough to play front row, but he's quick enough to play out in the edges as well if you need him to push out there in the centre. So he gives you that option, especially on that limited interchange that we now have.
Yeah.
And if he plays like he did again on the weekend, then you just have to find a spot for him in the 17.
Yeah. I see the Warriors really coming home strong with this one. I just don't think the Roosters offer enough, especially through the halves. So I've got the Warriors coming home strong, even though they're coming across the ditch. I've got the Warriors 13+.
Yeah, I sort of ummed and ahed on that one, but I just think the Roosters, I think they need to find a bit more direction in the halves, definitely, but I just don't think that they're going to get blown out by the Warriors. The Warriors are prone to coming over here and getting wins, but not getting it done with the same comfortable level they do at home, so I'm going to go the Roosters 1-12.
Yeah.
Second up on Sunday, we have the free-to-air TV game for Channel 9. The Parramatta Eels hosting the Penrith Panthers at Pirtek Stadium. Game kicks off at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. For the Parramatta Eels, there's 0 changes from last week's side. For the Penrith Panthers, they welcome back in Captain Matt Moylan at the expense of Will Smith. The Eels, what can we say? It certainly wasn't pretty on the weekend. There's a bit of drop ball. I think they made the mistake of trying to go too far up the middle and grinding it out there. They do have a solid forward pack, but when you've got the outside backs that they do with the likes of Jennings and Radradra on the left edge, not to mention Gordon playing fullback, who's playing some of the better footy he's played over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I really think you need to be using the ball a lot more and a lot earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon's more of a support player. He loves to follow up the breaks, and he does it better than anyone else in the game. So, if we can get it to the left edge with the likes of Jennings and a driver, he's just going to give him that option to inject himself where he can. And Jennings showed, although he was held up by a great try saver on the weekend, Jennings showed, if you give him a bit of space, he can really inject himself through. So I think Parramatta really do look the goods. If they can get rid of that drop ball, I thought they were really dominant on the weekend.
Yeah, certainly. I think Penrith, while they're unlucky to get done by the Dragons, I think the Dragons always had that one in their measure. I was certainly impressed with some of what I saw from Penrith. Obviously, Tamari Martin is going to be good for another run in the top grade. He's starting to come into his own. He's got a little bit more confident there. You can see he overcalled his halves partner there a couple of times and took control of that. I actually like Peter Wallace out of hooker as well. I think he's much more settled there. It's interesting to see what they do when Chico Seguiaro does come back. But I think the big question for them this week is Bryce Cartwright. That was a badly dislocated thumb. It's bad when the paramedics can't get it back in on site.
Yep.
So whether or not he's going to be able to pass those scans, I believe he's going for scans tonight, Wednesday night, as we're taping. So might know a little bit more over the next day or two. But a big question mark there for both Penrith fans and for Supercoach fans.
Big inclusion, but with Matty Moylan, everyone's been waiting to watch him come back. Can he really emulate what he went through last year. I've got big raps on Matty Moreland. He's one of my favourite players. Can go to the line, can ball play, can run through.
He's got all the skills, that's for sure. My question is obviously after this bit of a layoff, just how he slots back into that team. But I'm really intrigued to see how they utilise him and Tamari Martin. There's obviously talk that more than might play 5'8". Now that Martin's there, I don't think that's going to be a question. You've got Martin playing the halves of Souders working pretty well, but I think you might see the two of them float in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
Defensively, I think Moylan will do all the work at fullback, but you may find in attack that they sort of play second fiddle to each other every now and then, and it could create some really interesting opportunities that'll be hard to defend against.
Yeah, I think it'll be a ripper of the game, good attacking game. The only thing I really think is separating it is the homegrown advantage to the Eels at Pertec Stadium. They really get the crowd amongst it, so I think that'll be the deciding factor. I've got the Eels 1-12.
Yeah, I think the home ground will certainly help them in the Old West Derby there. The other thing, I just can't see Semi being quiet again this week. I think Semi and Michael Jennings will step up again this week, and because of that, I've got Parramatta getting this one done 1-12. Monday Night Football sees the Canterbury Bulldogs host the Canberra Raiders at their spiritual home of Belmore Sports Ground. 7 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. For the Bulldogs, there's no changes from last week's squad. The Raiders, on the other hand, welcome back in Aiden Caesar, Blake Austin from injury, and Joey Leilua from suspension. Out goes Sam Williams, Jeff Lima with a broken hand, and Brenko Lee.
All right, the Doggies at their emotional home at Belmore Sports Ground. Always great to watch a game out there at the Belmore against your boys, the Raiders, who still a bit bitter about the loss last week.
Oh, bitter. Where do we start? No conclusive evidence of a try.
14 players. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, but like I said, you can't blame the referees. If you didn't do enough to get the win, you didn't do enough to get the win.
Wouldn't be fun otherwise, but
you've got to blame someone else. Can't take the blame ourselves, can we?
Exactly. Doggies coming off the 10-day turnaround, which we alluded to earlier. It doesn't always mean that's going to be a good thing. Can be a hindrance having that extra time.
Almost too relaxed coming in there, and too much time to start thinking about things, overthink. There's so many things that can go wrong. At the same time, you could be freshened up by it. They certainly took advantage of having a longer turnaround than their opposition last week, but it was more of a standard. And their first half performance last week, wow, I don't think I've seen as an impressive first half from one team in, certainly the last two to 3 years from memory.
Yeah, definitely. They might have taken their foot off the pedal at the end there, but anyone who's played rugby knows that you can be excused for taking your foot off the pedal with that much of a lead. But I don't think they'll let that happen again.
I don't know that Des I don't know that Des would have necessarily seen it that way, but many people were talking in the press that it was a fade. It wasn't a fade. They just knew they had enough done, and they were looking ahead to what they had to do next. So I think from memory the second half was pretty much even score. So they didn't drop the second half or anything like that. They had a couple of players down who they should welcome back after the longer break. The Raiders, speaking of players welcome back, potentially welcoming in Austin and Caesar with Sam Williams dropped down to New South Wales Cup and Elliot Whitehead returning to the back row.
It's a handy couple of inclusions.
Definitely, and it is concerning. The last two second halves they've put together have been pretty disappointing. Whether that comes down to their halves or forwards or what the story is, there's a few other things that they really need to address too. Brain snaps. Frank Porniosala, I don't know if you caught it, coming through off the kickoff just drops a shoulder in, I think it was Ryan James's back, and it wasn't that he just ran into him, he turned and dropped his shoulder. You can't have those brain snaps and expect to win NRL games, especially, I think there's only 2 or 4 points in it at that point.
Wasn't needed near the end of the game, and let's be honest, that decided the game. Titans came back off the back of it, got the penalty, and marched down.
Well, without that penalty, the Titans are going to make it 100 metres. Instead, they've got a penalty 60 out, kicked 15 metres to touch, only had to make it 45 and scored.
Yeah.
So Frank, have a good look at yourself, mate.
Definitely. Out of Belmore, I think it's just going to be a cracker of a game. I think the Bulldogs, with the supporters, they'll be loud and proud out there. So I just see the Doggies being too strong in this one. I think if Caesar and Austin both come in, it might be a bit closer. So I've got Bulldogs 1-12 if both Caesar and Austin are in.
Yeah, I hope my question's over whether Austin and Caesar will play, but I think one of them coming back in, even to partner Sam Williams, will be enough here to keep us in the fight. I'd love to say I thought we were going to get it done. We do have a pretty good record against the Dogs, but at their spiritual home there at Belmore, we saw them roll the Storm there last year on a Monday night, so I'll be leaning the Dogs 1-12 in this one, but great to see a good round where there's a few games out at suburban grounds, Campbelltown, Belmore, and even the Central Coast at Gosford getting a game.
Definitely, that's what the crowd wants to see. They love the games in those little hubs, so it's good to watch.
Much better atmospheres at those. All right, thanks guys for tuning in to our previews again. Really appreciate the views, and really appreciate it if you could like and share the post where possible. Comment below, let us know your feedback, any thoughts on what we're doing, how we can make it better, what changes we can make, what you'd like to see. Also, make sure to give us a subscribe on YouTube if you get the opportunity, and give us a follow on Snapchat where we try to keep you up to date with our thoughts as we go through the round. And also check out our website, www.primacsports.com. There's plenty of content there across a number of sports as well. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck on the punt this weekend.
Thanks, guys.